Hello and welcome everybody to our next video. In this video, we're going to talk about TradingView. TradingView is our go-to charting tool as it's the best charting tool for crypto at this point in time. Let's head right into it. On the top left, when heading to TradingView, or at least let's start from the beginning. When you head to TradingView, you will see their basic website. Look first, then leap. And on the top right, you will want to sign in. With the free version, you will have a limited amount of assets you can look at or chart and put in watch lists. And you will have a limited amount of indicators and tools you'll be able to use. At least indicators. So I always recommend going for the paid version. And you can get the paid version best during sales, for example, Black Friday or something. Or if you don't care, just buy it anytime. It's very, very useful. Now let's head into the super charts, as they call them. On the top left, you can see all the tickers. And tickers you can put in are things like Bitcoin. It's basically the short version of the asset. It's called ticker. For example, Bitcoin, Tesla, the S&P 500, gold, right? You can look at everything, even the M2 money supply. So the supply of money in circulation, which is basically up only, which is funny. Then next to it, you can see the time frame you're looking at things. For example, gold. The time frame of looking at things like gold, you can look at it at the weekly, daily, hourly, and minutes time frame, which means that one of these red or green candles represents, in this case right now, 1 week, right? So in the bottom, you can see it's actually, this chart actually shows gold from 2023 up until right now. So Monday 9th, 2023 until Monday 20th, October 25. So next to this, you can see the settings for your candles. We're going to use normal candles or like the line chart if we have huge wicks. Yeah, just for a candle is basically, in this case, weekly open and weekly close. So the fat part of a candle represents the weekly open and the weekly close. Depending on, for example, when it starts and when it ends, it is either green or red. In this case, after this red candle, at the bottom part, it says basically it started at the top, ended at the bottom, so it turned into a red candle. And the new week starting, you started the candle at the bottom and ended it at the top, so at a higher price. So in this case, it's a green candle. The wicks you see below the candles are price fluctuations in this week. So in this week, it actually went lower, but closed above the low, right? So it is shown as a wick. You call that a wick. And as you can see, gold had a huge run up since, let's say, August 2025. So the last few months. Then next to the candles, you see indicators. Indicators are very, very useful tools, additional tools that help you read a chart. For example, the RSI, the relative strength index, etc. These I won't explain in detail here right now because it would blow up this video, but I will post a link to a friend of mine who has a good beginner course that I would really recommend you guys watch. Now on the left you can see the toolbar from Fibonacci, retracements to trend-based fib extensions. All of these I won't explain right now. I will only explain that you can star them and have them, if you use them a lot, on the top right, or like in this movable bar. All the tools, etc., and the tools used most are in the tutorial video I will send you by a good friend of mine. Then, well, now that I'm not explaining all the tools, what will we be using TradingView for most? Well, we will be using it most to check certain charts, right? On the right, you can see on the top the watch list, details and news. What we're going to look at is the watch list. The watch list we will use to categorize certain tokens and track tokens and to compare them to each other, right? In this case, I have a watch list for meme coins, and I can check how meme coins are performing versus one another, right? In this case, startup is an ICM meme, Internet Capital Markets meme, but there you also have dog coins, cat coins, etc. The same for, which are not amazing or good or anything, but just interesting to know what is going on, to be aware, to know the score. The next, I have L1s tracked, and you can check, okay, how are L1s performing right now? Which ones are doing better? Which ones are doing worse? Then DeFi, etc. How you do that is you go to watch list, then on the left you have a drop-down menu, you create a new list, then input frequency, or whatever you want to call the list, frequency test list, and then click on the plus button to, for example, put Bitcoin on the chart, on the list. Usually you always want to take the chart with the longest history. In this case, it would be the spot crypto TradingView, which basically takes the whole Bitcoin trading history all the way back to 9th November 2009 actually. So that is basically what we're mainly going to use it for. First of all, so to track these assets. The second thing we're going to do, and interestingly enough, Bitcoin is moving a little bit right now. And the second thing we're going to use it for is to track certain ratios. Like, for example, Bitcoin dominance. Bitcoin dominance, for example, shows us the ratio between Bitcoin and all other cryptocurrencies. This usually is a great indicator if we're in alt season or not. What you can see, for example, on this chart is that since the 22nd of August 2022, we've been, until kind of right now, we had the first big move down on Bitcoin dominance. We've been in a Bitcoin dominated rally. So the Bitcoin dominance rose from 40% to 60%, 66% almost. So like more than 50% up. This is very interesting because it basically tells you that instead of holding altcoins or like a broad set of altcoins, you would rather hold Bitcoin, right? Because it outperforms the altcoin market in general. Another interesting chart, for example, is an altcoin denominated in Bitcoin. For example, let's say we look at Ethereum USDT. So let's say you want to look at Ethereum to Bitcoin, right? There is a certain chart already that is ETH-BTC. And well, there's a lot going on my chart right now, and I don't want to change it, but we can look at ETH-BTC on a different platform. And I don't like this one either, and this will happen sometimes. You will find the right chart. Let's take Coinbase because they have, you can see that was a good example. They have a much larger history here. So this chart basically says, okay, how is Ethereum doing versus Bitcoin? Also here as well, you will see that Bitcoin has dominated Ethereum in the bear market and was outperformed in the bull market, right? Yet in the beginning of the last bull market, Bitcoin still outperformed Ethereum until the late stages of the bull market in the last year, basically. So far, the cycle, and for those watching later, it doesn't really matter, it's just for understanding, Bitcoin has dominated and outperformed Ethereum, right? And Ethereum just now started to show some life. So this is interesting, just for general understanding. So what this means is usually Ethereum introduces altcoin season. Yeah, as it's the biggest quote altcoin, which is not really an altcoin anymore, but it's the biggest coin outside of Bitcoin. Another interesting chart you can look at is the total 2. The total 2 is crypto total market cap excluding Bitcoin. Right? How is that doing? Right? How is that doing? Then, and we're not going to look into the charts right now. Then another interesting chart that I like looking at for altcoins is others. So that's all cryptocurrencies except outside the top 10 divided by Bitcoin. This is a very interesting chart. And as you can see, since this bull run, it's been basically, it's been a down only. So Bitcoin has strongly, massively outperformed altcoins. Yeah, and it's basically almost back to its all-time lows with this wick that happened. And then you can, for example, think about, okay, is maybe now a good time to invest into altcoins or not? It's always something to think about. So if you want to add this chart to your watch list, you basically add others to BTC USDT. And then you have it on your watch list and you can look it up. Bitcoin, others BTC USDT, things like ETH BTC, you can also add. And this is basically what we're going to use TradingView for. For a grand macro overview, yeah, we can also look at gold, yeah, or the money supply, like how's the money supply doing? Yeah, because the money supply is very correlated to crypto, and all these things we can look at. So I hope you had some cognitions during this video. I hope you enjoy using TradingView as much as I do, and I see you in the next video.